Our next storyteller, again, someone I've just been thrilled to meet. He's been so entertaining and so much fun to work with. It's been so interesting, the different nuances that we've been going over in his story. He has a podcast called The World Exists. The World Exists podcast. So please welcome to the stage Mr. R. Eric Thomas.
So I moved to Philadelphia when I was 25 years old. It was February, and I had been drunk since the day before Thanksgiving. Pretty consistently. Christmas Eve, I was high. So, just because this is true stories, I want to make sure you all know what's going on. At the time, I was living in Baltimore. I was living in my parents' basement, and I was working at the Hard Rock Cafe, and I was having a clandestine affair with one of my coworkers, a black albino who was on the down low. So things were good. And my dad became really obsessed with making sure that I had a plan. He was really just wanted to know that I had something going on for me. He cornered me once as I was coming home drunk as usual. I had spent the day in D.C. at the World War II Memorial, just drinking a bottle of Jack Daniels because I'm a history buff. And he's like, son, you gotta have a 5-year plan. And I literally at that point, my 5-year plan was literally like a sound effect. It was like, but I had an inkling of an idea. I had a drunken conversation, and I decided I was going to move. And I had a plan, and it started with a P, and that rhymes with P, and that stands for Philadelphia. So I was going to move here, and I thought, well, maybe I'll get a better job, or maybe my arts career will take off, or whatever. But more importantly, the most important thing, the thing that was missing most of my life was maybe I'll get away from the albino and I'll get a real boyfriend for the first time. That was really, really important to me. And I figured, well, there's a lot of gays in Philadelphia, and it's great to be gay in Philadelphia. They made a whole movie about how great it is to be gay in Philadelphia. So I was really excited, and so I did what I knew how to do. I perched up at the bar, and in Baltimore there's 2 gay bars, and they're across the street from each other. So it's really you just see the same shit over and over again, nothing, the ghost of Langston Hughes going from stall to stall, nothing's happening. But in Philadelphia there was 6 gay bars, so I was like, oh. And I would just perch up at the bar, and I had made myself sit there, and I would sit there, and I would just wait until somebody talked to me. It's like the Lana Turner style of getting a boyfriend, or whoever got discovered, whatever, who cares? Anyway, I didn't Wikipedia it, because I was like, I don't care. And I would just sit there, and I was like, you can't leave until somebody talks to you. And more often than not, I would just sort of black out. But the good news is I got to play my favorite game, which is called Census Taker. And you can play this at home. What you do is you wake up next to a stranger, and then you turn to them and you say, oh, and what is your name? And what is your race? Uh-huh. And how many people live in this house? And where am I? And that was romance. And it occurred to me that there was maybe something more that I could be doing. Maybe there's a different way of being, but like in a romantic comedy, like Sandra Bullock meeting somebody in a coffee shop or something ridiculous. But I couldn't figure out how to do that. There was a certain way of being, a knowledge of being that I didn't have, I didn't get. And I decided, while over drinks, that it was because I was gay, and because gays don't learn how to do that. And I know that's not actually true, but I'm the one who's telling the story, so I can say it. So yes, it's true. Gays don't learn how to be human beings. But it's true, in high school, when my classmates were pairing up and experimenting and trying things out and learning how to be kind of adults, I was playing supporting roles in Anything Goes and Little Shop of Horrors, and various other things, which I was very, very good at, very, very good at, very good at, very good. And so I got to Philadelphia, and I sort of had this foolproof plan with a capital P, where I would just sort of sit at the bar, and I did that. I did that a lot. I did that, on Tuesdays and Wednesdays mostly, and also Fridays and Saturdays, and Mondays definitely, and Sundays was a good special at Uncle's, and Thursdays. So every day. And the nights when I got to play Census Taker started being outnumbered by the nights when I would sort of wake up in the floor of my laundry room in my apartment building, and which is fine because there's sheets down there and it's warm. But and things got weird, and there was nights of weird violence, and I kept thinking, like, I'm just trying to find a boyfriend. I don't know why all this crazy shit is happening, and I would get glimpses of my life, of what it really was going on, and like the empirical facts of what is going on today in my life, and it scared me, it terrified me. I didn't know what to do about it, and I just ran from it. I ran from the idea, and I was just like, well, just another drink, and it goes away, and I kept running, and eventually I had to stop running, mostly because I'm asthmatic. At the time I was a pack-a-day smoker, and I was a little heavy because I like to eat pizza at 4 in the morning and wonder what happened. So I figured out something has to change, and the obvious became blindingly obvious. And so one day I was like, well, I'm just not gonna have a drink, and then the next day I didn't have a drink, and then I eventually quit drinking, which is really annoying. And it's just like when you see in the movies, with the folding chairs and the coffee and the crying and the nonsense and the speeches and everything. It's just like that, but it's also it's like nothing I had ever experienced. I sort of was learning how to be somebody new. And there's this thing that they say. Well, no one had actually ever said it to me, but I saw it in that movie 28 Days with Sandra Bullock. So. What you're supposed to do, you're supposed to get a plant. And if you can keep the plant alive for a year, then you can get a pet. And then if you can keep the pet alive for a year, then you can get a boyfriend. And then if you can keep the boyfriend alive for a year, then you can marry him. And I was like, I like a plant. I have a plant. So I didn't have time to go to a plant store with Lowe's. I don't know. So I just grabbed some crocuses from Rittenhouse Square, put them in a pot, and was like, thrive, motherfucker! And it was around that time that I met EJ. EJ was this guy that I met at the gym. I had a lot of time around the happy hour, so I decided, I contribute to the gym every month, like the United Way and Planned Parenthood or whatever. So, I should see what this is all about, And I met him at the gym, and he actually goes and does things, at the gym, and he was really fit and really good looking. He was built like a rugby player, and he had these pecs, which had this gravitational pull. And the first time I met him, I just motorboated him because I have boundary issues. And it just so happened that he was looking for a roommate, and it just so happened that I was looking to make some changes in where I was living, and so we decided to move in together. And I thought, oh, we're going to do it. Because what I didn't mention is that EJ was gay and hot, and I of course am gay and hot, and I've seen porn. That's what happens. When two gay dudes live in a house, they're just sitting around with one poster on the wall, and eventually one of their dicks falls in the other one's mouth, and that's okay, and that happens, and I am okay with that. I am okay with that, and I didn't think it was going to be weird. I really didn't, because I want to sleep with all my friends. I really do, because you never know what somebody is like in that area until you're in that area, and I just have this abiding curiosity in the human condition. I'm like the Ira Glass of sucking dick. And so I was just like, oh, yeah, we're going to do it. But we moved in together and set up house, and I'm walking around in my underwear lovely day. And we didn't end up sleeping together. We became friends. And that's when shit got weird. Because I don't know how to be friends with gay dudes. That's literally just science fiction, gay friendship. I don't understand it. I don't understand how to be friends with straight dudes either, or lady dudes, or any kind of dudes. I don't understand how to do that. But I sort of started playing the role and pretending, and we would go to the gym together, and I'd be like, oh yes, so life, isn't it interesting and platonic? Ha, Family Guy, fascinute. And eventually I started to because we're going to the gym together, I started to actually get, pretty hot. I do say so myself. And, I lost weight, and, I didn't look the way I look now. I'm carrying some preemptive Thanksgiving weight for next week. But, you always be prepared. But but I actually started looking good, and I thought I should treat myself. And there was one thing that I hadn't done. I used to go to this after-hours club every night because, if the bar closes at 2, but the after-hours club closes at 3:30, there's so many more opportunities for boys to love you. And in the alley. But they had this one night that I'd never gone to because I was like, I had a Grey Goose gut and I was a little shy and I was a little sloppy. And it's called the Boys of Summer Party, and it's a pretty high concept. And I don't have a lot of time to explain it to you, but I'll try. It's like the gay guys go to the after-hours club in their bathing suits, and that's the concept. So I guess it's like 6 pages. I just didn't skip. So I strapped myself into this like a little piece of twine, and I hitched up my britches, and I went to Voyeur, the after-hours club, which is like, look, don't touch, you weird motherfucker. And I checked my pants and shirt at the coat check, and I entered this arena with 3 floors of lasers and boys with hula hoops and shot boys and tan boys and pale boys and hairy boys and fat boys, and everybody's got the balls out. And I felt like Cinderella at the balls. And everyone was like, really, everybody had a little bit of liquid courage in them, except me. No, I'm lying. Like, everybody was like lit up. Everyone was like tits out, like done. And I wasn't. I was just like, well, you can do this. You're good. You're a human being. And so I'm like walking through with my bathing suit. And there was this thing. I don't know if it's something that happens every year or just like this was the first year, a new thing we're going to do where like if a guy was like interested in you, he would just like take his thumb and like just like run it like along the back ridge of your bathing suit. It's just like a mom, like you got some schmutz on your ass cheek. Just like that. And so I just see guys doing that, and like a couple of times it happened to me, and I was like, oh, thank you, I don't understand. It made me very nervous. And by the time the clock struck midnight, I turned into a pumpkin. I was like, I gotta go. And I felt uncomfortable. I was like, I don't know how to be in this scenario. And I was like, well, the easy thing is to just knock back a 10 or 12 martinis, and you'll be back to normal. I didn't want to do that for some reason. And so I went back to the coat check, and I retrieved my pants and a little bag. And this man comes up to me, and he's like drunk, and he's spilling his Jack and Coke down my leg a little bit, and he's like, I saw you upstairs. And I was like, oh, I saw you too, so we both have eyes, so there we are, thank you. And he's like staring at my butt, and he's like, I was like, thank you again. He's like, I just want to touch it. And I was like, well, let's look with our eyes and not our hands, Helen Keller. He didn't seem to hear me. He was like, I just want to explore it. And I was like, whoa, slow your roll, Magellan. Apparently, he didn't hear that last one because he had just switched his strength into different hand, and he reached his thumb down and he ran it under the rim of my bathing suit, and he didn't stop there. He popped it right into my asshole, which is a thing. And so I graciously removed myself. Namaste. And I retreated to the alley where I put on my pants and returned to my house with my roommate, who I don't sleep with, and the 2 fat cats that hate me. These fat cats hate me so much. The next morning, I was making breakfast, and my roommate, he didn't go to the party. He asked me how it went, and I'm like, oh, it was great, lights, go-go boys, thumb up the butt, the usual. And we were chatting about boys, and just in general, that's what we do. And he's making coffee, and I'm stirring some eggs. And we're both on this dating site called OkCupid, and have this little algorithm that matches you like friend percentage and romantic match percentage. And we never actually looked at each other's profiles. We didn't come up. And so we looked them up while we were making breakfast, and we were a really good friend match, but like a pretty poor relationship match. And I'm stirring the eggs, and I was just like, well, it's a good thing we're not trying to date. And like the air in the room just like, And the cats were like, ooh, shade. And they just like... And these things shit in their own, like shit in boxes. And they're like, no, you all are a mess. And she got weird. And I didn't turn back from the oven. I didn't know what to do. And I said, oh, yeah. No, yeah, it's weird, right? And he was like, yeah, no, it's a good thing. We're not trying to date. And I mustered up some nerve, and I was like, well, you don't want to date me, right? And he's like, no, you don't like the Phillies. I was like, no, I don't know. I mean, I don't not like them. I just don't know who they are. Like. And we sort of just got quiet. You know, I used to say a lot at the bar, you know, I never learned how to be. I never learned how to be. Kids these days, they come out of the womb shouting rah rah, ooh la la. But I don't know. Like maybe there's just not a map, and maybe the map makers, the Magellans are us, standing in our kitchens having awkward conversations, learning how to be. You know, and so maybe I don't know. When my dad asks me what my 5-year plan is these days, I tell him, I don't know. I'm just trying to learn how to be. So eventually the air in the kitchen warmed back up, and the cats returned. Eggs were done, and the coffee finished, and EJ poured me a mug and poured himself a mug and made mine just the way I like it. Splenda and sugar and a little cream. And I made him a plate of eggs, and we sat in the kitchen that we share together. Thank you.
Our Eric Thomas.